We are recording. Okay, so good morning again, guys. We are going to be taking notes over the communication process, much like we did yesterday. That being said, I'm going to spin in my chair 5 times. I'm going to challenge you with something. Can you write at least one thing that you remember from yesterday's notes in the chat below or to the right of me, depending on where the chat is. And based on that, we're going to see how much you remember from yesterday's notes. If you were not here yesterday or you missed the Zoom, then you can always go back and look. But I'm going to spin in my chair, let's say for 30 seconds. And in that 30 seconds, I want you guys to try to find or to remember one thing you remember from the notes, and I want you to post it in the chat. So let me get my timer ready. All right, wait, let me reset. Stop. There we go. Okay, so timer is reset. I'm opening the chat. That being said, let's see what we've got. So you have 30 seconds to write something you remember from yesterday's notes, and go. And Mr. Smith is spinning in the chair, and he is doing the age-old secret that if you stare at one thing, focusing while you spin, you will not become disoriented because I'm looking at my watch. I'm not looking at anything else. I'm only focused on the centrifugal force of pushing my chair, and I'm also focused on, I just hit the space bar, so I don't know if that did anything. I'm also focused on the watch, or the time. Maybe I am getting disoriented. Either way, we're looking. We got 5 seconds left. We got 4 seconds left. We got 3 seconds left. 2, 1, stop. Okay, Mr. Smith is completely dizzy. Let's see what we got. I'm okay, all right, okay. Symbols can be objective or subjective. Absolutely. Noise is something that gets in the way of communication. Excellent. Models of communication, action, interaction, and transactional. Wonderful. Prior knowledge is schema. You guys are freaking geniuses. All of that is good. Very, very well done. Okay. So that being said, let's go back to the action model. So this is where we ended yesterday, the information source transmitting a message to a receiver, and noise can stop that from happening. So they simplified that to the action model 2. This isn't exactly the second stage, or I guess if I can use a gaming analogy. Yesterday we learned about Charmander. Today we're going to learn about Charmeleon. Or if you need something that's more contemporary, yesterday we made a wood pickaxe. Today we're going to make a stone pickaxe. Yeah, I've only played Minecraft like once, so I hope that analogy holds up. Either way, so the action model was simplified to action model 2, which means that the source sends a message through a channel to a receiver, right? And noise can stop that from happening. We all understand that that's what the action model looks like. However, there's one problem with this model. Now, the problem is, what if the receiver needs to send something back to the source? Because as we all know, conversation does not happen one-sided. At least sometimes it does, especially if your boyfriend or girlfriend is yelling at you or talking to you or just having a conversation and they're just really, really into whatever it is that they're saying and you're not really saying anything, but you're just kind of just listening. Yes, conversations can go one way, but that's not how most conversations work. So it's time for that model to evolve into something else, what that looks like. So the action model evolves into the interaction model, otherwise known as the SRAM model. This model sees the source and receiver as a team in the process, and it was proposed by a guy named Wilbur Schramm. He proposed in the late 1940s. This model takes into account the interaction between participants. It shows an ongoing flow of information versus just one. So for example, if I were to say something to Brianna and be like, Brianna, I hope you have a great day, and she doesn't respond, then the action model is fine, right? Because it's just me, the source, sending a message through a channel to my receiver. However, the problem is, if Brianna wanted to respond, then we'd have to do a whole different action model just for her sending a message back to me. And that's a lot of drawing and a lot of nonsense, right? So we came up with a different model. Behold, Charmeleon. Behold, stone pickaxe. Behold, the interaction model, the SRAM model, okay? So we have 2 interpreters, 2 people that are communicating. Where's my annotation tool? Okay. Now, today's waiting room song was These Words by Natasha Bedingfield. I picked that because the whole song is about her trying to write a good song. She's trying to come up with the right words to make a good song. What she's doing is deciding what she's going to say before she says it, so she is doing what's called encoding. Okay? You don't walk into the kitchen to make a sandwich without knowing what kind of sandwich you're going to make. You don't know what you don't just walk up to a store and get a bunch of random things because you don't because you have to plan what you're going to buy from the store. So you also don't talk to someone without kind of at least a little bit planning what you're going to say beforehand. So therefore, we always encode for the same reason that you wouldn't just get in there and make a grilled cheese without actually thinking about the ingredients. So you walk in, you get your bread, you get your butter, you get the bacon. Hang on, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, technically, if you add anything besides cheese to a grilled cheese sandwich, that makes it a melt. So technically, using the words of grammar and all of that stuff, that would not be a grilled cheese. So checkmate. I get it. I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, my point is you prescribe what you're going to do before you do it. You think about what you're going to say before you say it. At least most people do. That's the process of encoding. You are thinking about the information you are going to say before you actually say it. So when I think about what I'm going to say, I'm encoding. Then I deliver the message, and it goes to you. Now, from there, it's up to you to figure out what I'm saying or decode the message. Where's my little squiggly line? There we go. So it goes all the way from me to you. Little cute arrow right there. Now, the problem is if you can't decode the message, then you can't hear what I'm saying. And the thing that might stop you from decoding is noise. So if the noise stops that, stop. Okay. If the noise stops that, that's going to stop the message from happening, right? But luckily, we don't have to do that. So noise can be reduced, and noise can also not exist. So if I encode the message, deliver it to you, and then you hear it and you understand it, then you've successfully decoded the message. Now the issue now is you want to respond. So in order to respond, you have to figure out what you're going to say. So then you become the encoder, and then you have to deliver the message to me. So then you deliver said message all the way over to me, and then it's up to me to decode said message. And then once I decode, then I figure it out, then I decide what I'm going to say, and then I send a message back to you. And then you decode it, figure out what you're going to say, encode it, send it back to me. And over and over and over and over and over and over, before you know it, the conversation is over. So the problem with the action model that we went over yesterday is that it wasn't modern enough. Obviously, people talk back and forth to each other. This model factors in for that. So the idea that communication is an ongoing process. It's not just one person saying one thing to one person once. It's a constant circle of people talking. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on. So the interaction model, or the SRAM model that I just went over, introduced in the process of communication text, focuses on the relationship between the participants. Communication is not a reaction to each person's behavior, but also it's not just a reaction is what I should say. It's not just a reaction to each person's behavior or their speech, but also to the background of each individual, their knowledge, their attitude, their culture, etc. And it's also based on prior knowledge or schema, as Brianna explained perfectly in the chat earlier. So when you're talking to your boyfriend, you're not just talking to them for the first time. You're thinking about everything you know about them. When you're talking to your friend, when you're talking to your teacher, you aren't just talking to them for the first time, or you might be, but either way, you're thinking about what they might say before they say it. And also, in a conversation, it's not just one person saying to it's not one person talking to one other person. It goes back and forth, which is why we have the interaction model. And that is it for the notes for today. Now, tomorrow is going to be an early release day. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to record the notes first, and I'll put them in the Wednesday folder so that way we don't have to go over them. And I can just kind of remind you guys what we need to do and go over the agenda. But I think that we'll still have time for like a normal Zoom, and I'm not giving you guys any new assignments tomorrow, so that should be not that big of an issue. But that being said, that's the end of the notes. I hope you guys understand Charmeleon, aka Stone Pickaxe, aka the interaction model, aka the SRAM model.